I never planned for it to go like this. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have said my life was simple, solid, intact. I had a career I liked, a wife I loved, and a quiet three-bedroom home on a tree-lined street where the neighbors said hello and no one honked after 8 p.m. We were stable. We were content. Then my mother, Elaine, moved in, and everything began to crack. My wife's name is Rachel. She's strong, sharp, grew up in a house where boundaries were gospel and Sunday nights were for meal prepping and face masks, not navigating passive-aggressive comments over dinner. Rachel likes silence when she reads. She likes coffee brewed a certain way, and she liked, until recently, coming home to a house that felt like hers. My mother is the opposite. She talks constantly, needs to control the thermostat, thinks seasoning is subjective, and that Rachel should really learn to make a proper roast. She means well. I swear she does. But she also doesn't know when to stop. Or maybe she just doesn't care. And I, Mark Dalton, the man stuck between them, didn't see the explosion coming, even when I should have. It started with a phone call. Elaine's voice was shaky. "They're raising my rent again, Mark." I was at work, trying to finalize a proposal that was already a week overdue. "It's the third hike this year," she continued. "I'm 68 years old. I can't keep working weekends just to stay afloat." I felt the familiar knot in my stomach. "Do you want me to come look at the place again? Maybe I can negotiate something with the landlord." She sniffed. "No, es with. I'm tired of fighting. I'm just tired." Pause. And then came the words that changed everything. "I was wondering, would it be a burden if I stayed with you for a little while? Just until I get things sorted?" The air left the room. I blinked. Let me talk to Rachel." I figured you'd say that. Her voice was laced with something I couldn't name. Hope? Guilt? Maybe both. Rachel was in the kitchen when I got home that night, cooking, something with garlic and lemon and that herb I never remember the name of. I watched her for a second. God, I love this woman. "Hey," I said, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door. She looked up, smiled. "Hey, how was work?" "Exhausting. Can we talk?" Her smile faded. "Oh." I chuckled, but it didn't land. I told her about the call, about the rent, about Elaine's ask. Rachel didn't say anything for a moment. Then, carefully, "How long is a little while?" "I don't know. A few weeks? A month?" She stirred the pot slowly. "We have a space," I offered. "It wouldn't be forever." She nodded. "Of course," she said. And that was that. Or so I thought. Elaine moved in 3 days later. 2 suitcases, a box of framed photos, a bag of yarn and knitting supplies. She hugged Rachel at the door. "Thank you for opening your home to me," she said. "It means the world." Rachel smiled tightly. "Of course. Your family." It sounded genuine, but I should have noticed the pause. The first few days were smooth enough. Elaine took the guest room at the end of the hall. We showed her how the shower worked, which light switch controlled what, where to find the coffee filters and the extra blankets. She complimented Rachel's cooking, even helped fold laundry. It was fine, until it wasn't. The first real issue was the kitchen. Rachel came home one night to find Elaine had reorganized the pantry. "I just thought it would be easier this way," my mother said, smiling. Rachel stared at the shelves like she was trying to stay calm. "Oh, thanks." Later, in our room, she said, "That was a little over the line." "She's just trying to help," I replied. "I know, but this is our space." She didn't ask. I kissed her forehead. "I'll talk to her." I didn't. Next, it was the thermostat. Elaine liked it warmer. Much warmer. Rachel, who runs hot even in winter, started waking up sweating. "I turned it down last night," she told me. "I turned it back up," Elaine chirped from the kitchen. Rachel looked at me. I looked at my plate and said nothing. Then came the laundry. One Saturday, Rachel opened the dryer to find all her delicate sweaters had been washed and shrunk. Elaine walked in, holding a basket. "Oh, I did a load. Hope that's okay." Rachel didn't speak. I tried to mediate. She didn't mean it. She doesn't know about the tags. She didn't ask, Rachel said. She just did it. And again, I said nothing. Because how do you tell your mother to stop helping? How do you tell your wife to be more understanding? How do you not tear in two? The final straw, for Rachel, came during dinner. Elaine was reminiscing. "Back in my day, wives knew how to keep a home. My mother used to say, if the house is messy, so is the marriage." Rachel froze. I felt the tension before I understood the damage. Elaine laughed, sipping her wine. Rachel set down her fork. "Excuse me," she said. She left the table. I sat there, stunned. Elaine blinked. "What?" It was a joke. That night, Rachel and I fought. Not yelling. Not door slamming. Worse than that. Quiet. Cold. "I feel like a stranger in my own house," she said. "She's only trying to help," I repeated. Then maybe she should try less. I didn't sleep much that night. Neither did she. Elaine, in the morning, made pancakes. "Something to bring us together," she said. Rachel barely touched hers. I wanted to believe it would pass. That Rachel would adjust. That Elaine would soften. That I could keep loving both without choosing. But I was wrong. Because some tensions don't loosen. They tighten until someone finally snaps. And as I stood in the hallway the next evening, listening to my wife cry quietly behind a locked door and my mother humming in the kitchen like nothing was wrong, I realized that someone was going to be me. Silence is louder in a house that used to be warm. I didn't notice it at first. Or maybe I did and just pretended I didn't. I told myself things were adjusting, that this kind of transition would take time, that Rachel would come around, that Mom would ease up, that if I just stayed neutral, the fire would burn out on its own. But fires don't go out by being ignored. They smolder, then they spread, and by the second month, our house had become a battlefield. Every hallway was a trench, every meal a standoff, and I, Mark Dalton, husband, son, fixer, was caught in the middle, pretending not to see the smoke when it was already in my lungs. It began with Rachel sleeping in the guest room. She said it was because of the thermostat again, that she was sweating through the sheets. But I knew better. She needed space. Not from me, from Elaine. And I didn't blame her. What I did blame her for, quietly, was not telling me sooner. But then I remembered. I'd stopped listening weeks ago. Elaine was oblivious. Or maybe she wasn't. Maybe she just didn't care. She'd make coffee in the mornings and hum show tunes in the kitchen like she hadn't just rearranged the spice rack again. She'd leave unsolicited feedback on Rachel's outfits. "That color's a bit harsh, isn't it, honey?" Or her schedule. "Do you really need to work that late when Mark's home alone?" Rachel started leaving earlier for work, coming home later. Some nights, she'd eat dinner in the office. And every time I asked if she was okay, she'd say, "I'm fine." She wasn't, and I knew it. One Friday, I came home to find the two of them in the living room, sitting, not talking. Rachel's arms were crossed. Elaine was sipping tea. I froze. "Hey," I said, forcing a smile. Neither of them looked at me. Rachel stood. "I'm going for a walk." "Dinner's almost ready," I offered. I lost my appetite. She left. Elaine looked at me. "I was just trying to give her some advice," she said. She got defensive. "What advice?" She shrugged. I told her if she's so unhappy here, maybe she should ask herself why. I closed my eyes. "Mom, I'm just saying, when two people live together, compromise matters." She's compromised a lot. Elaine raised an eyebrow. So have I. And there it was. The equation I hadn't calculated. In Elaine's mind, this wasn't her intruding. It was her compromising. It was her adjusting. She truly believed she was the one being generous. And maybe in her world she was, but in mine, she was drowning my marriage one helpful suggestion at a time. That night, I knocked on the office door. Rachel was at her desk, headphones on. She didn't look up. "Can we talk?" I asked. She took the headphones off. Sighed. "Sure." I sat on the edge of the couch. She waited. "I know things are tense," I began. "Tense," she repeated, voice flat. "I mean, it's been hard. For both of you." She nodded slowly. "And I want to fix it." She stared at me, then said, "How?" I blinked. "I thought maybe we could set some boundaries. Talk about space. Schedule some time for just us. I could talk to Mom about." She shook her head. "No more boundaries, Mark." I frowned. "Why?" "Because boundaries only work when people respect them." She stood, walked to the window, crossed her arms. "I feel like a guest in my own home," she said. I tiptoe around my kitchen. I flinch every time I hear her voice. I'm losing sleep. I'm losing peace. And I'm starting to lose us. I stood too. "Don't say that." "It's true." "Then what do you want me to do?" She turned to me. Her eyes were tired. "Vet, I want you to choose." The air left the room. "What?" I want you to choose, she repeated. Your mother or your marriage. I didn't answer that night. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I didn't know how to say it. I love my mother. I owed her everything. She raised me, protected me, worked 2 jobs after Dad left so I could go to college. She was all I had for years. But Rachel had built a life with me, chosen me, loved me without conditions, without obligation, without history weighing her down. Rachel was my now. Elaine was my past. And I had to decide who I wanted in my future. I took a walk that night, around the block, then 2 more. I thought about childhood dinners, just me and Mom at the kitchen table, canned ravioli and dollar store candles because she wanted it to feel special. I thought about the day I brought Rachel home for the first time, how Elaine had smiled and said, "Oh, she's lovely," but her eyes had narrowed. I thought about how, slowly, over the years, Rachel had started dimming her light in her own house. And I thought about how I'd watched it happen and said nothing. The next morning, I sat down with Elaine. She was making oatmeal. "Morning, sweetheart," she chirped. I cleared my throat. "Mom, we need to talk." She turned, spoon in hand. "What is it?" "I think it's time you found a new place." Her face changed. "What?" "I think you need your own space. And Rachel needs hers back." She blinked. "But we talked about this. You said it was temporary." I thought. I know what I said, and I meant it. But it's not working. Not for Rachel. Not for us. Silence. Then, "Are you choosing her over me?" I swallowed hard. "I'm choosing my marriage." Elaine stared at me for a long time, then set the spoon down. "I see." She didn't speak to me for the rest of the day. That evening, she packed her things. No yelling. No crying. Just silence. Rachel didn't celebrate. She didn't smile. She just exhaled, like someone finally allowed to breathe. Elaine moved into a senior housing apartment across town. We visited, occasionally, but it was never the same. There was a coldness in her tone now, a hesitation in her hug. I knew what she felt, betrayal, and I hated it. But I made my choice, and for the first time in months, Rachel slept through the night. They say when you make the right choice, peace follows. But sometimes, peace arrives late, and in the space between choosing and healing, there's guilt. Heavy, dragging, whispering guilt. Even when you choose the person you love. Even when you know it was the only choice you could make. I had picked Rachel. I had asked my mother to leave. But now, the house didn't feel victorious. It felt echoey, the kind of quiet that wraps around your neck and doesn't let go. Rachel didn't say much for the first few days. She moved through the house like someone trying not to wake ghosts. She was softer than she'd been in weeks, but not in the way I'd hoped. This wasn't warmth. It was caution, like she was waiting to see if the war was really over, or if I'd call Mom back at the first sign of discomfort. I made her coffee every morning, washed the dishes before she could, offered to cook, burn the pasta. She smiled weakly. "Thanks, babe." But her eyes still held something unreadable. Not anger, not quite sadness. Distance. The kind that made me realize it wasn't just my mother who had moved out. Some part of Rachel had too, and I didn't know how to get her back. I went to see my mother a week later. She didn't open the door fully, just enough to peer out. "Oh, it's you. Can I come in?" She paused, then opened the door. Her new place was small, neat, full of flowers that hadn't wilted yet. She offered me tea. I declined. We sat. She didn't look at me. So she said, "How's the queen of the house?" "Mom." "She won, didn't she?" I rubbed my face. She didn't want to win. She wanted to feel safe. In her home. This was my home too. Not anymore. She flinched. "You chose her." "I chose you, yes." She stood. Started watering a plant. "I gave up everything for you, Mark." "I know. I never asked you for anything. You asked to live in our house. Then you started rearranging it. And us." She turned. "You think she's innocent?" She hated me the minute I walked in. She felt disrespected. I was trying to help. "I know," I said. "But help, when it's not asked for, can feel like control." She sat down again, breathing hard. I just wanted to be needed. That sentence broke something in me. Because it wasn't about Rachel. It was about years. Loneliness. Aging. And the fear that the one person you built your life around no longer needed you to feel whole. I reached for her hand. "I will always need you, Mom. But not at the cost of losing the person I chose to build my future with." She didn't cry, but her grip trembled. We didn't hug when I left, but she said, "Drive safe." And for now, that would have to be enough. At home, Rachel was reading when I came in. "You sat beside her." She looked up. "How'd it go?" I hesitated. "She's hurting." Rachel nodded. "I get it." Then, after a long pause, "I'm hurting too." I took her hand. "I know, and I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner, for asking you to shrink in your own home." She looked at me, finally. Not past me, not through me, at me. "You didn't ask, but you didn't stop her either." That was the truth. The one I'd been circling for weeks. The one that made my chest burn. "I thought staying neutral would keep the peace," I said, "and almost cost us everything." We went to couples counseling. Rachel found the name. A woman named Dr. Lynn. Soft-spoken, precise, warm in a way that made us both feel safe. Our first session was mostly us staring at each other, unsure what to say. Then Rachel spoke. "I don't want to feel like a guest anymore." And I said, "I don't want to keep disappointing the people I love." Dr. Lynn nodded, then asked, "What does safety look like for each of you?" Rachel said, "Being heard, not having to fight for space, not feeling like kindness has to compete with blood." I said, "Being enough, without splitting myself in half." And from there, we began. Some days it was beautiful, some days brutal, but it was real. We fought, we laughed, we opened drawers we hadn't touched since Elaine arrived, found birthday cards Rachel never gave me because it wasn't the right moment, found an apron from my mother stuffed behind the stove. Rachel held it, then handed it to me. "You should decide what to do with this." I threw it out that night, without telling her. We invited my mother over. Just once. Not to stay. Just dinner. I cooked. It went badly. She asked why the meat was dry. Rachel snapped. I spilled wine on the tablecloth. Elaine left early. Rachel cried in the bathroom, and I sat on the floor outside the door and said, "We're not broken. We're just not finished healing." And eventually, she opened the door. A month later, Rachel's birthday came. I planned it myself. No guests. Just us. Candlelight. Her favorite meal. I wrote her a letter. Inside, I said, "Thank you for staying, for waiting, for fighting, for choosing me, even when I didn't know how to choose you back. I won't make that mistake again." She cried, then kissed me, and for the first time in months, our home felt like a home again. We still argue. We still flinch when the doorbell rings. Sometimes, she dreams that Elaine moves back in without asking. Sometimes, I dream that Rachel leaves. But we wake up, and we talk, and we stay. Because love isn't clean. It's messy. It's fragile. But when it's real, it's worth rebuilding. Time doesn't heal. Time creates space. What you fill that space with, that's what is the healing. After months of work, things between Rachel and me began to feel lighter. Not perfect, not like before, but solid. She laughed again. She reached for me again. Some nights, we cooked together. Others, we read in silence. Sometimes we fought. But now we fought with purpose, not like strangers trying to hurt each other, but like people who knew what was at stake and didn't want to lose it again. And for a while, that was enough. Until Elaine called. It had been nearly 4 months since the awkward dinner, since the spilled wine, the overcooked meat, and the parting hug that felt like shaking hands through glass. Her name popped up on my phone just as Rachel and I were setting the table. I looked at it. Rachel noticed. "Are you going to answer?" "I don't know." She nodded. "Okay." I stood in the hallway, thumb hovering over the screen, and answered. "Mom." She didn't start with hello. "I miss you." I said nothing. "I've been thinking about everything." Still, I stayed quiet. She continued. "I was wrong. About how I handled things. About Rachel. About you." I took a breath. "Why now?" "Because it's quiet here. And when it's quiet, you hear your regrets louder." There it was. Something real. Something I hadn't expected. "Can we talk?" she asked. "In person." I hesitated, then said, "I'll ask Rachel." We didn't decide right away. Rachel listened, really listened, then said, "I don't need her to like me, but if she's actually changed, I need to hear it." So we invited her over. One Sunday afternoon. No kachin, no expectations. Just a quiet table, 3 chairs, and enough time to say what needed saying. Elaine brought lemon pie, her old recipe, the one I hadn't tasted since I was 13. She placed it gently on the counter, looked at Rachel, and said, "I didn't come here to talk about pie." We sat. No one touched their forks. She cleared her throat. "I thought I knew what family was supposed to look like," she began. "What sons owe their mothers. What wives should be. I thought I was preserving something by inserting myself." She looked at Rachel. "I see now. I was pushing myself into a space that was never mine to take." Rachel didn't reply. Elaine pressed on. "I resented you," she admitted, "because you made Mark's world bigger. Because he didn't need me the way he used to." Rachel's lips parted slightly, but Elaine wasn't finished. "And I said things I can't unsay. Created tension I can't undo. I hurt both of you. I see that now." She looked at me. "I came here today to say one thing. I'm sorry. Not if I hurt you. Not but I meant well. Just, I'm sorry." And in that moment, something shifted. Rachel didn't smile, but she nodded. Once. Then she stood, walked to the counter, and served the pie. We ate in silence. But it was the good kind. The kind you only share with people who know there's nothing left to prove. Later, as Elaine got ready to leave, she turned to Rachel and asked, "Would it be okay if I called you sometime? Just to talk?" Rachel looked at me, then back at Elaine, and said, "I'd like that. No teatrix. No hugs." But something real passed between them, and I felt it like a thread tying two ends that had been frayed for too long. The next weeks were cautious. Elaine called. Once a week. Short conversations. Light topics. No shoulds, no used to be's. Rachel kept her distance at first. But one night, after a 20-minute call with my mom, she hung up and said, "She's different now." I smiled. "She's trying." "Yeah," Rachel whispered. "We all are." Then came the unexpected twist. Rachel's work was offering a 6-week fellowship in New York. High profile. Prestigious. A career-shifting opportunity. She brought it up over dinner, hands fidgeting with her napkin. "I haven't decided yet," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "You're even thinking about turning it down?" She bit her lip. "I don't want to go if it means leaving this behind. If we lose what we just got back." I reached across the table, took her hand. "You're not leaving. You're growing. And I'll be here." She teared up. "Really?" "Yes," I said. "We've done harder things. We can do this." Elaine surprised me the next day. She came by unannounced, with a small potted plant and a folded piece of paper. "I heard about the fellowship," she said. "I wanted to say congrats." Then she handed me the paper. A list. Meals Rachel likes. Things that help her sleep when she's stressed. Brands of coffee she buys. Notes about little routines you might forget while she's gone. I read it. All of it. Then looked at her. "You made this." I thought, if I can't be in your house, I can at least help you hold it together while she's away. For the first time in months, I hugged her. And this time it felt whole. Rachel left 2 weeks later. Knox and I dropped her at the airport. She kissed me, forehead to chin of lips. "I'll miss you. I'll miss us. But we'll be here when you get back." The house was quiet again. But this time, it wasn't haunted. It was waiting, holding space for love that had earned its right to stay. And each day, when I passed the little list Elaine had written, taped now to the fridge, I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was honest. And that was more than enough. The night before Rachel came home, I couldn't sleep. It wasn't anxiety. It was anticipation. The good kind. The kind that hums under your skin like electricity before a summer storm. The house was clean. Her favorite tea was stocked in the cabinet. I'd even bought those lavender-scented linen sprays she liked. Something I used to think was pointless, but now, it felt like a welcome. Knox slept at the foot of our bed, tail twitching, as if he too knew something was shifting. I lay there, staring at the ceiling fan, and thought about what the house had become over the last year. Not just a structure, but a reflection of the quiet work of repair, of what we nearly lost, and what we were slowly, painfully, lovingly rebuilding. When Rachel walked through the front door the next afternoon, suitcase in hand, hair wind-tossed from the cab ride, I felt the world tilt just slightly back into place. She dropped her bag and smiled. That smile. It wasn't the same one from before. It wasn't polished, practiced, or polite. It was real, earned, worn like the handle of a well-used coffee mug. She stepped forward. I stepped forward. And when we hugged, it didn't feel like picking up where we left off. It felt like meeting again. For the first time, with nothing between us but truth. We didn't rush things. We unpacked together, cooked together, talked late into the night on the porch, like we were catching up on a friendship we'd paused, not a marriage we'd nearly broken. She told me stories from New York. I told her how Elaine had started texting me recipes again. We laughed, and sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we sat in the quiet and just held hands. Because not every moment needs fixing. Some just need presence. A week later, Rachel suggested something I didn't expect. Let's invite your mom to dinner. I blinked. Are you sure? I'm not, she said, but I think I'm ready to try again. We didn't make it a big event. Just a Sunday roast. Nothing fancy. Elaine brought salad. She complimented the new rug. Rachel complimented her hair. And for most of the meal, it was calm. No backhanded comments. No long silences. Just three people who had burned the script and were trying, one line at a time, to write something new. At the end of the night, Elaine stayed behind to help clean up. I found her in the kitchen, drying dishes. She turned to me, eyes soft. She's different now, she said. So are you, I replied. She nodded. Then, after a long pause, I didn't know I could change, but I think I wanted to. For you, for her, for us. I hugged her. This time, tightly. This time, fully. Rachel and I never returned to who we were. Because we weren't supposed to. We became something stronger. Not because of what we endured, but because of how we chose to face it. Together. With eyes open. With voices that stopped whispering just to keep the peace. 6 months later, we hosted Thanksgiving. Our table was full. Friends. Elaine. Rachel's sister. My co-workers. Our neighbors. People who had watched us fall and root again. Before dinner, I stood up to give a toast. Nothing rehearsed. Just heart. I used to think home was a place you protect, I said. Now I know. Home is something you build. Every day. Through honesty. Through listening. Through hard conversations and quiet mornings. Through the people who choose to stay. Even when it's hard. Rachel squeezed my hand. Elaine smiled through tears. We clinked glasses. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't the home I imagined. It was better. Because it was ours. And this time, no one had to pretend.